Welcome back to the Behind the Lens podcast. Today on the episode, we have Logan, and he's a good friend of mine. We actually met at City Light Church serving for our community as filmmakers. And it's going to be a fun episode. We're going to dive into how he got started, what are his biggest struggles as a freelancer, and the biggest breakthrough. So this is going to be an amazing episode. So let's dive in.
If you don't have anything valuable to bring to the conversation, shut your mouth and listen and soak it up, because it will come into play later on in life.
Talk to us about, for the viewers out there, what is it like being a content creator, filmmaker, on your end?
I think the biggest thing about being a content creator, filmmaker, anything, is creativity. If you have a creative itch, I feel like this is the perfect industry for you to be in. I mean, there's so many different separate entities that you could dive into: real estate, corporate, weddings. And the list just goes on and on. So I feel like even if you don't want to go into a certain area, there's plenty of areas for you to dive into and it'd be profitable.
Exactly. And that's something that we have done here at Heartfelt Productions is you can find your niche as a filmmaker, but there's so many different areas. If you want to be just a wedding videographer, you could go full-time on weddings.
Yeah.
If you just want to create content for corporations, you could do that. Or, you just got to find what you're passionate about and what you want to do and follow your heart.
No, 100%. Agreed.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I know you can attest to this, being a filmmaker, content creator, it doesn't feel like a job. You're just having fun. You're just hanging out with the boys. You're hanging out with your best friends and, getting to scratch that creative itch. And it's such a blessing, honestly.
Exactly. And I think when you go into content creation, never have I gotten into, people will give you shot lists and say, hey, can you do this? But in the end, once you get to a certain level, people are leaning on you for your creative output.
Yeah.
And once you get there and you can bring in a team, you can create so much more because now the team's doing what they want to do. You're dialing all the settings. You're teaching leaders to say, hey, I have trust and I have faith in you to create something. And that's what it's, so much fun. It's like you said, with the boys or with the girls.
Yeah.
You're hanging out, you're creating content, and then you're leveraging that content for your clients. Mm-hmm. And when they receive it back, it's just they go, wow, this is truly something special.
Yeah, I think the biggest level of gratitude that you can get is when that client gives you creative freedom and then turn around, deliver it, and they're like, oh my gosh, that was the greatest decision we ever made, was to give that creative freedom and trust these guys. And having that level of trust, you don't get that very often with a client. And getting to find those clients is super special. You're like, oh my gosh, here we go.
Exactly.
Because you get excited. You're like, oh, now we can get creative.
Right. And I think so when I first started, when you're first starting out, you really don't have that creative freedom because you really don't know how to film. You don't know your style yet. Mm-hmm. And clients will go, okay, here's the shot list. This is what I need from you. But as you continue to grow as a filmmaker, then clients start leveraging and ask for your experience because you become a leader in the industry. Mm-hmm. And it just takes time to get that creative freedom approach.
No, yeah. And I think, starting off with that shot list, right? Mm-hmm. Once you perfect that, you naturally start to think in your head, how can I make this shot better?
Yep.
Right? And then that leads into your creativity, growing with those. And then it takes you to your style, right? Once you figure out, okay, I can do this with this shot, I can do this with this shot. Okay, now your style is starting to come above ground and bloom. And now people are like, okay, now he's starting to find his groove.
Exactly. So Logan, let's get into it. Every filmmaker, every photographer, videographer has that moment where they pick up a camera, somebody hands them a camera. Why did you start? Would love to hear that journey from you.
Oh man. it all started with a family vacation with my dad. And we went to Zion National Park, and he had just gotten I think it was a Canon XT, like Rebel something. I mean, one of the old cameras. And I snagged it from him on the trip, and I just started going crazy, taking photos, landscape photos. And two of them are actually still hanging up in the house on canvas, which blows my mind. But that's where it started. It was photography. A lot of people don't realize that. I was a photographer before I even picked up anything video-wise.
Okay. And
photography was always there, but obviously life, sports, stuff like that takes over. But it's funny, through a church group, it led into being a published model photographer, right? So you just never know what God's plan is going to be and the blessings that he's going to lay down in your life through content creation and everything. And I think that's the best part of it.
100%. And, you never know where God's going to take you, with this tool that you can use for good. And it's just like, I sometimes I sit back and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is God's, plan. Like there's no way to explain it. And you're just like, heartfelt stories, and you're creating these films that people are crying. And it's just like, I can't do that on my own. It's God's plan. And we're just, just the person behind the camera.
Yeah. Well, and when it finally sets in is that first moment when you create something. Like for me, it was a photo. And honestly, it was the photo that's hanging up in my parents' house.
Yeah.
They were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then to hear that, it's like, okay, maybe this is something that you can sort of dive into and, make a career. But I mean, at that point I must have been in like middle school at that point. I was like 6th, 7th grade when that happened. And then photo class, 8th grade, photo class, freshman year, and then graphic design the last 3 years of high school. And then photos sort of took a back seat, and it was just all sports, all college and everything. Yep. And then look where I am now. Like the journey is insane.
Exactly. Yeah. Same thing with me, like playing college sports. Never really picked up a camera till after college.
See, that's crazy. That blows my mind.
Right.
That you're where you are and you didn't pick up a camera until after college.
I didn't know anything.
That's insane.
Literally college baseball, got a degree, 2 years after college, working at In-N-Out, park ranger, going, I do not like this 9 to 5, making like $10, $11 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I moved back to Vegas and then went to church, and somebody said, here's the camera for the first time. That's when I was like, I knew God was like, this is what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's just like this journey, constantly growing, constantly, getting better each and every day.
Yeah.
Because, if you can find, Omar just said it, if you're obsessed at what you do, that's when you see your true light shine.
Mm-hmm.
And people that aren't obsessed, they're not going to create great content or great videos.
No, 100%. It's like, I didn't know I was going to become obsessed with short form social media content.
Right.
But now it's like all I can think about. I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I make it better each time?
Right.
And I think another really cool thing, like the difference, right?
Yeah.
I had a camera in my hand, that thought in the back of my head from like 6th grade on, right? Yep. But then for you, it was not until after college sports.
Yep.
Like that, I mean, that's just beautiful. That's just God. There's nothing else that you can attribute it to. It's like, and look at where you are, right?
Exactly.
There's no way that you could have done that without God's blessing, intervention in it in that short span of time.
It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how I've seen God just go through this journey is every time that I'm like to a next level where it's like, okay, it's time to pivot. You're here. Now let's get here.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get here. And it's just like that constant, learning, because it's like, how can we always grow to the next step?
Yeah.
And honestly, it's been, just grateful to have that community here, because without these core group of guys, like Think Media with Sean Cannell and, you know, Omar, and then Justin Berry, City Light Squad, Kyle Anderson. Like, these are the best creatives in the industry.
Yeah.
And I kind of got to be in the back seat and say, oh, yeah, this is a camera. This is how we learn. This is how you dial in a podcast. So if you're out there watching here, I would say find your community, find your tribe, and get, you know, create that relationship and grow together.
Well, that's how, you know, I progressed so fast in model photography.
Yeah.
It was a creative community out here. For one of the shoots that we did up at Mount Charleston in the snow, we had 80, 90 people up there. Photographers, videographers, models, performers, everything. And there wasn't competition. That was the beauty of it. It wasn't, I'm going to safeguard my photo secrets so that no one else is getting the same thing that I'm getting. It was literally, okay, hey, this is how I shoot this. This is why I shoot it this way.
Yep.
This is how I edit. This is why I edit this way. This is how I get this in post and everything. And it was just like a city-like community before I had City Light.
Wow.
Right? And that I completely attribute, you know, my level of success in that photo industry to that creative community. I mean, in what world, number one, should a brand new model photographer in a 3-month span already be put on the front of a small modeling magazine out here in Vegas?
I know.
Without God and a community.
Right?
Come on.
It's not happening.
No.
Like, people just to get on the cover, it takes time.
No, yeah.
It takes years.
Oh,
I mean,
my
some
gosh,
people are still waiting around it in 3
exactly.
months.
Yeah. It was mind-blowing. And I couldn't believe it. But, you know, God had a different plan.
Right.
You know, that was just I think that was laying the groundwork for finding the creativity and the level of creativity that God has blessed me with.
Unreal.
And then it just led to everything else.
So the next question, Logan, is why video? How did that start? You're a photographer. You're dialing all the settings. You're on covers of a magazine. So, like, why not stay with photo? What happened? Like, why did you start leaning towards video? Like, share that story.
A great question. It was the shutdown, COVID. I had just launched a website and I was ready to dive in full blown. I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. I want to start making money, doing big modeling shoots and everything. I had just gotten done shooting a high profile, international high fashion magazine shoot. And I'm like on fire. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is in a magazine over in Europe. Like, what am I doing? I mean, it was my first experience with, like, we had portable changing rooms, we had makeup artists, we had everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And then COVID hits. And that whole thing just stopped. I mean, the meetups stopped. Well, I mean, technically the meetups didn't stop. There was still a select group of us that would still go out, and we got reamed for it. Jeez. That was really bad. But video, it was through church. John Mediana, who is one of our great friends and mentors.
Yes, he is.
He brought me in and said, hey, I would like you to start shooting the live streams for City Light. All right. Yeah. What time do I need to be there? Oh, you need to be there at 6:30 in the morning. On a Sunday. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. So I started doing that and I was having a blast. I mean, shooting roaming camera, shooting, you know, the standalone camera for the main message and everything. And then John ended up leaving. And I sort of fell out of the church altogether because for some reason I felt like if I wasn't doing that with the people that I liked doing it with, why am I doing it? And so, like, subconsciously, I just stopped going to church. I felt that there wasn't a need. And so I pulled away from my faith. And, you know, video was still there, I think, to a certain extent. I started a vlog channel with one of my best friends, and that had a very unfortunate end. We had just hit the golden viewer retention rate after 5 videos. We were about to, you know, start popping off. We were about to go into talks with Dutch Bros on like an ambassadorship,
Yeah.
a sponsor for our videos and everything.
Dang.
And that sort of shut down. I'm sitting there like, what am I
Yeah.
doing? Like, I don't know what to do. And I think all of the 9-to-5 jobs taught
Right.
me very valuable lessons, like
Mhm.
from food running at Tahiti Village to security for 2 years on Fremont,
Yeah.
to hosting a California Pizza Kitchen whilst doing
Right.
wedding video at the same time and all of that stuff. I mean, number one, how to talk to people, right? And how to judge people's body language,
Yep.
their tone, and everything. I think that plays a huge part in success in this industry. If you can't read how a conversation is going,
Mhm.
you're not going to go far at all. And you know that, I mean, from your experience
Oh,
in
yeah.
this business. It's crazy.
I don't think people realize there's so many creatives out there, and like each person, but you got to have that communication aspect, because like the reason why I feel like sometimes I look back and like, why are we getting so busy? It's because we actually bring our personalities to each and every shoot. We communicate to the person. We ask questions. How do you want this? We get to know them. They're part of our family when we're going out to film. And I think when you can communicate, when you can create a relationship with the person you're filming for, your client, now it just comes like this synergy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're producing great content, you're producing great content, and it's just fun to do it.
Yeah.
Because everybody in the end of the day is winning. And if you can communicate properly, that's the game changer,
Mhm.
building relationships. Because if you don't do that, you could be the best videographer or filmmaker in the world, but if you don't know how to talk to people, if you don't know how to communicate something to them, you're not going to go anywhere, because talent can only take you so far.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And, touching back on like the community,
Mm-hmm.
this is crazy to think about. So the photo journey started through church group, right?
Yeah.
I met the guy. What a lot of people don't know is through that same church group,
Yeah.
that same period, I met two guys, big entrepreneurs who I didn't know they were at the
Okay.
time. And after everything ended with photo and all that stuff, and I'm in this middle ground of, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
They reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like you to come be our content manager for both of our companies.
Yep.
Okay, what does that look like? We'll be paying you like $3,000 a month.
Ooh.
I'm like, okay,
Right.
yeah, let's do it. I had no idea that I was going to be, shooting over at Steve Aoki's house constantly. I had no idea I was going to be flying on private jets to Utah to go, stay and tour the space station gaming headquarters. I didn't realize I was
Right.
going to be in rooms with multi-million-dollar venture capitalists.
Yeah.
I mean, the one time I couldn't believe it. We're sitting down having sushi in this really nice restaurant in Utah.
Right.
And there's 3 millionaires sitting right across from me. And I'm like, I'm 21 years old.
Yeah.
What am I doing? But it's because of the church community,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that is so important. If someone can just find that community wherever you are, it'll take whatever you want to do to the next level.
Oh, it does. And I think it's like John says, there's no competition. It's community. Competition, community. If you can build that community, right now, we have built that community where I could send other people jobs, gigs, because I'm booked that day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's helping them out. They're getting paid. And it's not like, oh, I shouldn't send them. No, it's, hey, I want to help you out. And when you build a community like that, everybody wins. You have a tattoo that says winning streak.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. How can you win together? Because winning, building something great, but doing it alone sucks.
Yeah.
But building something great where everybody is, a leader in the community,
Mm-hmm.
a leader on the team, and wants to get better.
Yeah.
now you're talking about everybody's winning together, everybody's having fun, and it's a happy family.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to see.
Yeah, it's like your family away from family. And like obviously as you grow older, your time with your actual family starts to diminish. But I think it's such a blessing that once you build that new family, you really don't lose that family aspect in your life. And to do that in an industry that is very profitable and allows for a lot of time freedom,
Yeah.
you're able to still, have those special moments with your family, spend that really nice quality time, and still have fun. Exactly. I think that's the biggest thing is if you're not having fun, then what's the point?
Then why are you doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing, like when I started, like I'm just myself. I show up on shoots, I wear a hat. I'm having a good time every time I show up because it's something I love to do. It's just, we're having fun because we're filming all the time. Yeah. And it's just like, it's fun because I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
And it's like, if people aren't having fun, then, don't do it.
Yeah.
Then why are you doing it?
I'm not gonna lie, that was one of my favorite things when I started coming on jobs with you guys.
Right.
I was able to wear black joggers, nice shoes, and a hat. That made me so happy because if you're not comfortable in your workspace, you're not going to perform at the highest possible level.
Exactly.
Right. And I feel like that was one of the challenges that I had was sometimes I just did not feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I did not feel comfortable. Like, yes, I was comfortable because I was wearing jeans and boots, but at the same time, I'm a creative. Like I need to be creative. I need to be comfortable. I need to have the ability to not have to worry about, oh my gosh, okay, I need to get a haircut by this day because I have a shoot on this day.
Right.
No, I can just wear a hat. Okay, we're good. Exactly. I don't look too scrubby.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And it's still, dressing to finding like what you want to wear. But I've never had a client when I started say, oh, you look unprofessional. Or what are you wearing today? Like that has never happened to me. And it's just crazy to think. And it's like, I was listening to somebody else and it's like, be your authentic self.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's all about. I'm not going to try to be, molding into somebody else or like everybody's like, oh, why do you wear a bracelet? Why do you wear, the glasses? Like, because that's how I am. Like when I grew up, playing sports, I was always a little different. Like, had the wristbands, had everything in, had the chain. But it's just like, if I wasn't like on the field with like the wristband, I wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
So, finding your comfortability, like when you're filming as a business, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't really see it too.
I had a question for you. Do you think that there are too many people pleasers in our industry?
Oh, I mean, I would say as a filmmaker, there are some, but I don't really see it. I think in our industry, in this community out here, I think it's fast paced.
Yeah.
I think it's, hey, I'm going to get this job done. I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm not going to really follow up with that relationship.
Yeah.
It's just onto this gig, onto this gig, onto that. And, for us, it's like, it's very fast paced, but we built those relationships.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm people pleasing.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I actually have a relationship with you.
Exactly.
It's not like, oh, you're just a number out there. No. Yeah. Build the relationship with the person. But I think there are some,
Do you think that a lot of people in our industry, not just in our community, but, nationwide, do you think that they're missing out on a lot of potential consistent business because they're not creating those relationships?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's all about the relationships. It's all about the relationships and the timing. Right. So it's like sometimes maybe you're not there. You have that relationship with that person. Like I've had many relationships in the beginning, but I wasn't ready for that moment.
Yep.
right? And I would say, oh, why am I not getting this gig? Why
Yeah.
am I not getting this deal? We had a great relationship, but the quality wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now, guess what? People are calling me from past relationships going, you know what? Let's start this new relationship
Yep.
with you, because you already set the base of each relationship that now you can build something great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think God's timing is always perfect, right?
Mhm.
And there are certain things that you need to learn before you're able to bring the level of value that is needed for certain jobs. And I think that just goes back to the church community,
Yes.
right? And a normal person, right, in this industry would look at that experience of, why am I not getting this job? We have such a good relationship. Why are we not getting this?
Mhm.
They just chalk it up to, oh, you know what? It's their loss, da da da, this and that, right?
Yeah.
But for us, because we're so deeply planted in our faith,
Yep.
we chalk it up to, okay, God, it's not the right time.
Exactly.
I'm going to trust in you. I'm going to get down on my knees, lift up my hands, and just submit to whatever your plan is.
Right.
And honestly, it just gives you so much more of a peace of mind in that situation.
Exactly.
And allows you not to have such a clouded mind going into
Mhm.
the next jobs that you have, the next possibilities.
And that's so true, Logan. Like, you know, I used to be like that, where it's like, why didn't I not get the
Mhm.
job? What was the deal? My dad can attain to it. Oh, you got to be kidding! We didn't get that, or like they went with somebody else. But now it's like, you know what? You know, maybe it's not the right timing. Maybe they didn't see the bigger picture. And you look back and you reflect and you go, okay, let's just chalk up. Let's move on. Let's create more content. Let's
Mhm.
keep learning. Let's keep growing. But thinking positively on that mind shift
Yeah.
and just trusting God. Because if you're not trusting God, you know, that's just, it might be not God's timing at the right time.
Yep.
And, you know, sometimes you just have to take a step back when you're maybe in the valley, but you're not ready for that mountaintop.
Yeah. And I think that goes for everything in life, not just,
Mhm.
you know, your industry that you're in.
True.
I mean, relationships, you know, timing with, you know, your health, your habits and everything. Sometimes God is waiting to teach you a valuable lesson.
Yep.
So then when that happens, it really gives you that fire under your butt
Oh,
to
yeah.
be like, okay, you really do need to change. And I just showed you why. And I think that is so powerful.
Oh,
So powerful.
so I'll go into a story, like, let's bring some baseball into this, right?
Mhm.
So back in the day, like college or high school. So I was on JV, so made varsity my sophomore year.
Mhm.
You know, wasn't playing. The coach, or my dad asked the coach, you know, why is Brandon not playing? He sucks as a hitter. He is the worst hitter of all time.
Oh,
You know, so I took that personal, and I go, I mean, and I was like, okay, I'm going to work my butt off. And I was hitting 400 already on JV, like
Yeah.
batting third.
Mhm.
But when varsity is just like, there was like the struggle, like, why am I not starting? So to that point, I worked my butt off. I proved him wrong. I made all state second team. I hit like over 480 senior year.
Jeez.
Played with, you know, on teams with Bryce Harper, Chris Bryant, like all these guys. But you don't want to let somebody tell you you're not good enough,
Yep.
because that is going to put a fire on you, because now you're like, how am I going to get better? Because don't let anybody ever judge you for who you are.
Yep.
And I've seen a lot of people take criticism and then keep it all inside.
Yeah.
And they're just like, it eats them alive. But how can you use that criticism to actually get better
Yep.
and use that as motivation to get where you want to be?
Yeah. I think, you know, as an athlete, and also, you know, tying it back to as a filmmaker, there comes a time when you need to be humbled.
Yep.
And, you know, same kind of a thing, right? You played on teams with Bryce Harper,
Yeah.
Chris Bryant. They're in the MLB. They're in the show,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
When I got to college, for me, like, I'm like, all right, well, I played with and against Troy Brown Jr., Zach Collins, Julian Strother, all these guys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're in the NBA.
Yeah.
Julian Strother was just on a championship team last year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I got to college. I'm like, that moment, I'll never forget it. I'm sitting in my apartment with our sophomore captain point guard. And I ask him, I'm like, why am I not playing? Like, I need to play. Like, I'm trying to get out of here, right? And he looks at me dead in my eyes and starts listing off all the things. You're lazy. You don't rebound. You don't play good enough defense. You don't do this. You don't do that. And for every single one of them, I gave a rebuttal. And at one point, he was just like, dude, you need to shut the F up.
Yeah.
The truth hurts. What you do with it is what you're going to do with it. Yep. It's on you at this point.
Yeah.
I cried myself to sleep that night. But then I turned into, being the 6th ranked shooter, adjusted field goal percentage for all JUCOs in the nation at 67%.
Yeah. Huge.
I turned into, a player who, if I wasn't out there, you could tell. Yep. Right. And that goes for me and our other freshman point guard. When we were out on the court and we were doing our job, we were winning. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, you have to take constructive criticism. If you can't take constructive criticism, you're not going to succeed in life. If you get butt hurt, if you let it, cloud your judgment and, just let it be all negative, it's like, no, there's a lesson in there.
Yes. You
need to be able to take it because they're just trying to make you better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, just learn how to they're just trying to help you out because they probably have walked the shoes before you and you don't have that experience.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's what it's all about, man. But Logan, so talk about, we talked about City Light, we talked about filmmaking, but let's kind of like wrap this up. So if you were to give, one person some advice that is going to pick up a camera, that wants to do this not as a hobby but full time, what would you give that person?
I would say I'm gonna divvy this up into 2 separate points.
Okay.
Number 1 being be a sponge.
Okay.
That was, I think, some of the greatest advice that I ever received. Was if you can become a sponge, you can do a lot. Nice. When you're in high profile rooms, do not say anything unless it's bringing value to the conversation. Mm-hmm. If you don't have anything valuable to bring to it, shut your mouth and listen and soak it up because it will come into play later on in life. And the second point is find your worth. Because that was the biggest struggle for me getting into this industry. Mm-hmm. I did not know what I was worth. And do not let, because you probably know this, right? Yeah. Because you're a filmmaker, because of all this, friends reach out to you and they say, hey, can you shoot this for me? But like, is it free? Is it the homie discount kind of a thing, right? Don't do that. Yes, they're your friends. Yes, it's like family's different. Family, you can make an exception. But for friends, if your friends don't understand that this is what you do for a living and that they're still going to be charged for your services, they're not really your friends. They don't understand it. Know your worth and stick to your worth. Never sacrifice your worth because your time, your skill that God has blessed you with, I mean, that's a gift and you should be rewarded for that.
Exactly. And one of the things that I think, because I was there too, friends, family, friends, hey, can you do this stuff for free? If you are a friend of a person that is starting a business, literally tomorrow, I have a friend that just started her own esthetician business, and I'm going to get a facial because I am supporting her cause. Yep. If you have a friend, support them. Pay them what they're worth. Yes. Because in the end of the day, you're going to be blessed from that because you get to see them live out their dream, live out what they're meant to be, put them on a winning streak. Because in the beginning, times are rough. When you're first starting out, nobody sees the vision. Nobody sees the effort you're putting in. But if you have friends that support you, family that supports you and say, hey, here's $50, here's $200 to shoot. Now that 200 starts adding up. Now you can start building something out. So if somebody's out there and is a true friend, pay for somebody's services, help them level 100%. Up. And I think that's what I've seen in this community is friends are willing to do that for other people to help them out to get where they want to go. And just, I've been blessed from that. And I've been blessed to pass it on too. But that's what it's about, helping others succeed.
Putting each other on a winning streak. I was going to the same barber for, like 2-3 years? And then I found out that D. Witters from church has his own barbershop. I'm like, all right, keep it in-house. Keep it within the city-like family. And gosh, shout out to him, the Faction barbershop, best cut in town. Go support him. Put D on a winning streak.
Oh, yeah. D, man, I sit in that chair. He comes in. He's got the jokes. He's got the lingo.
It's always great conversation. Camera. That's the best part.
Oh, yeah.
If you're able to have good conversation, fruitful, faith-based, business-based conversation within your industry, it amplifies your success, the word of mouth tenfold, 100%.
Man, Logan, now this was one of those conversations.
This was great.
And, just truly blessed to sit down, really talk, get to know you, get to know just who you are, your relationship with God, how you serve are serving. We're serving at City Light. And it's just like, getting to really dive into like your story. Like this has been just a blessing just to be a part of this today and, honored. It's
a blessing to be here and to be able to, experience, something new with great people. With your dad sitting back there and listening.
He's over there, and you gotta love what he does.
I love your dad.
My dad's the man. That's a shout out to him.
Shout out to John.
And then on that note, guys, what a great episode with Logan. If you have any questions about filmmaking, business, or faith, leave them in the comment below. We'd love to discuss, and we'll see you on the next episode. Let's go.